President Betty, fellow Rotarians, and guests. It's just off the press. You're among the first to see it and the first to hear the history of the university under President Jon Wefald. This is it. The transformative years at Kansas State, the years of President Jon Wefald from 1986 to 2009. It's fair to say, I think, that Jon Wefald is among a handful of best-known people in this state. I also think it's fair to say that there's little I can say about him that you don't already know or don't already firmly believe. But this will be 30 years since Jon came to K-State. When he came, things were not very good. Enrollment was declining, and as many of you remember, we were struggling on many fronts. I think you'll agree there's no doubt about it at all that Jon proved to be a game changer. I think there's one unique factor about Jon Wefald that he had a holistic approach towards the university and all the challenges that faced him. Over the years, I've noticed that many college presidents have their areas of interest and their areas of disinterest. They have their areas of hands-on and they have their areas of hands-off. When Jon came to Kansas State, he had no disinterest at all, none. He was involved in every facet of the university, from athletics to academics. And he was very engaged in all of it and with all of those who benefited from it. He also embraced the whole community and the whole state. In Manhattan, town-gown relationships flourished under his leadership, to which his wife, Ruthann, contributed enormously. She and Jon opened their hearts and their homes to all of us for all the years they were here. When I think of Jon, I can't help but always smile and think of Julius Caesar, because from the first day he came, he saw, he conquered. When it was announced that he was going to retire, there were a lot of accolades. When we announced that we were going to build a $77 million state-of-the-art residence hall and name it Jon Wefald Hall, one of the regents said, "This is a transformational hall," which is pretty neat because he was a transformational guy. The chairman of the Board of Regents, Fred Logan, said, "I think if you look at higher education in Kansas, he was, it's fair to say, and I quote, an historic figure. He was an historic president." The Topeka Capitol said, "When Jon Wefald cleans out his president's office in Anderson Hall, he will left his mark on the university in every aspect of it. Kansas State University may not see the likes of him anytime soon." And the Kansas City Star said, "Kansas State University president is gifted with a common touch and an uncommon vision. Without a trace of pretension, the folksy leader turned a sleepy land-grant university into an academic, athletic, and economic powerhouse." And our friend up the road, as Lawrence said, Dolph Simmons said, "President Wefald turned the school around during his 20-plus years as its leader. Enrollment numbers were dropping, fiscal support was lagging, faculty morale was poor, the football program was so poor it could easily have affected KSU's membership in the Big 8 Conference, and alumni support was not good. Wefald, in many respects, saved KSU. I hope we don't forget that. Please help me welcome a man who has served all of us extremely well for a long, long time, President Jon Wefald."
Thank you so much, Bob. What an introduction. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And what a privilege it is to be back with the Manhattan Rotary Club, the best Rotary Club in the state of Kansas. I'm telling you, it is a thrill to be able to stand here after 30 years and talk a little bit about Kansas State. You know, we did accomplish a lot, but it wasn't me, it was our team. So let me just say about our team. Like Jim Kaufman, the best provost in the history of the world. I mean, the best ever. Tom Rawson, there was no better vice president for finance and administration in the United States of America. And we had the two best. Bob Kraus, an incredible problem solver. Both those guys got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And they were here, what? Solving problems all day long. Sue Peterson, a legislative liaison of extraordinary proportions. Pat Bosco, who I appointed as our director of enrollment. Oh, like my first day. Bill Snyder, of course, a legendary coach in the Hall of Fame. And there were many others. But, we didn't have a big team now. Oh, we had 2 vice presidents and a provost. That's it. We had probably the smallest administrative team of any Power 5 school, as they call them today, 65, of any of the 65 universities. A small team. You know why? Because we believed in empowerment. Look, I had 108 IQ in high school, and why not? My high school English teacher said, don't even think about going on to college. You're not smart enough. Join the Army. I've thought of her a million times. But that team was just outstanding. I think we only spent 4.5 cents out of every dollar for central administration. How low is that? There was no university in America that spent 4.5 cents out of every dollar on administration, because we didn't have many administrators. You know what? We didn't need them. Because by 1990, I'd say there were 300 people at Kansas State. Vice presidents, deans, department heads, faculty, students, making decisions every day, most of which I never heard about. You know why? Because I trusted them. You know how far trust goes? A long, long way. When you trust people, they trust you back 10,000 times. It's trust. Now, I'm only going to quote one thing. Dolph Simons, I quote him because he was a 3-year letterman at the University of Kansas. He is not a K-State partisan. His whole family went to the University of Kansas. He is a Jayhawker first and foremost. Now, he didn't say this in 1990. He said this on December 22nd of 2015. He said, our team at Kansas State was a unique team. And he said this: the Wefald leadership team was a powerful group in every respect, one that should serve as a model for other universities. Some schools have it, others don't. Now get that. Who do you think he's talking about? Some schools have it, others don't. I mean, he's calling us the best administrative team in the history of Kansas. It requires hard work, vision, and true leadership. But the dividends of such commitment are rewarding for all parties. Consider what took place at Kansas State. Now, I think it's fair to say I don't have a lot of influence over Dolph Simons. Okay, so here's the deal. We got a lot done. But we faced some, I would call it, intractable problems in 1986 and 87. Now, before I list those problems, let me indicate part of the reason for that was what happened after Joseph Dennison was our first president, 1863 to 73. And he was doing what Iowa State does, Colorado State was doing, North Carolina State, training farmers and mechanics. But he wanted to have the liberal arts, classical studies. We had Latin studies, Greek studies. People were teaching in English and biology, and all these fields like all of the other land grants. That all changed in 1873. I mean, completely. Yep. Now, here's the deal. You've heard of the Grange? The Grange became the most powerful farm movement in America let's say from 1868 to 1872. It's called the Grange. They're still with us today. Now, most people don't realize this. KU and Kansas State had their own Board of Regents from 1863 to 1913. Did you know that? Which means what? The Grange, by 1871 to 72, had a leadership, and they just, were interested in running everything. And they looked at Manhattan, they saw this little land-grant school, and you know what they said? We're taking it over. So the governor appointed, like 6 or 7 rangers, good farmers and ranchers to be sure, to control the Kansas State Board of Regents. This is 1872. So they picked John Anderson in 1873. Now, who is John Anderson? An evangelist, a politician, and a newspaper editor. Now, is that a horrible combination? No kidding. Now, I have to say this. John Anderson was only here for like 7 years. I'd have to say he is the strongest, most powerful president in the history of our entire university. Well, why do I say that? Because he took over in 73, and he told the faculty leadership, I want a new curriculum in 2 weeks. And I want that curriculum to be based on 3 programs: training farmers, training mechanics, and mechanics would be like small businessmen and craftsmen, and young ladies to be future housewives. Everything else was eliminated, basically. So what? From 1873 to 1943, most people don't realize this. Kansas State was a vocational technical institute. Okay, for 75 years. Now, this isn't true at North Carolina State or at Purdue, Iowa State, Colorado State. They never went through being a technical institute. When did it end? Have you ever heard of Milton Eisenhower? Dwight's brother? He came here in 1943, and he had to mandate classical studies and liberal arts. And he got it done. So you could start saying, we're the signs of being a modern comprehensive university. It's not like 1890 or 1910 or 1920. It's like 1943. He's one of our greatest presidents. Now, here's the other thing. How many people here know that 4 out of our first 5 presidents were fired? You know that? 4 out of 5 were fired. Why? And 2 of our Fairchild and Nichols, probably 2 of our 4 or 5 best presidents ever, got fired because they wanted Kansas State to be like Colorado State, Oregon State, North Carolina State, Iowa State, Purdue, and Texas A&M. Meaning what? To be more comprehensive? To be more modern? To be more diverse? To be what a good land-grant university should be? Look, you can't overcome 75 years of being a vocational technical institute. You can, but you can't. Because no one else, there wasn't another land-grant university that was a VOTEC for 75 years. Okay, that just explains a little bit of what I inherited in 1986. Now, in no particular order, I still have 15 minutes. No, I've done this before. I know. At 1 o'clock, it's gone. Hey, can I have some water here? Okay. Now, the challenges were many. And I actually had 725 pages in the first draft because I wanted everything in there. And Doug Looney of Sports Illustrated just called me last night and said, hey, wonderful book. Editor of Sports Illustrated. And look, I edited it 13 times. So what is it now? 291 pages. It's like short sentences, be brief, no repetition. So I think it was in my 7th edit. I'm looking at the challenges we're facing in 1986. And honest to God, I went back to ancient Greece and came up with a metaphor. You know what it's called? The Gordian knot. You've heard of the Gordian knot? Yep. It's like an intractable problem that might take 8 to 10 years. Now, I'm not Alexander the Great, but he's the only guy that was able to cut the Gordian knot. He unraveled it. That's all he unraveled it. So I'm facing problems that are 7 to 10 years. That's how long it's going to take to solve them. because they're intractable. Now, you know, the previous administration in 84 and 85 were basically saying enrollment had fallen by 5,000 students from 1981 to the time I got there. And they were just saying, hey, it's in the water. Small towns are getting smaller. Farmers and ranchers are getting fewer and fewer. Hey, there's nothing you can do about it. That was the attitude. There's nothing you can do about it. When I got here in the summer of 86, and, you know, they were nice people, but, you know, when I said, hey, we need a new library, or we're the only school in the Big Eight that doesn't have an art museum, we're the only school in the Big Eight that's not accredited by the American Research Library Association, our enrollments have fallen 5,000. Hey, can't we win 4 or 5 games in football, or how about 2 or 3? Here's what I heard. No. That's all I heard. No. It can't be done. It's impossible. It's out of the question. Okay, within a year and a half, you know, we've got Kaufman, Rawson, Krause, Boscow. And, you know, we didn't look upon challenges as impossible. You know what we looked at as a challenge? As an opportunity. I mean, every single issue that I'm talking about here, we saw as an opportunity. Look, we never used the word, it can't be done. We never used impossible. We never used it. We said yes. Okay, let's take enrollment. Now, I just talked to Pat last week, and when did I hire you? He said, your first day. I said, you got to be kidding. Well, I guess I heard good things about him. So I knew, you know, we were down 5,000 students, and, you know, the former administration is saying we're going to go to 11,000, and probably that means we're in the Missouri Valley. Football's gone. We're a basketball school only. You know that. Okay? So I put Pat in charge. And we hired 9, you know, now this was not an intractable problem. It was so easy. I turned Southwest State around like in a year. I went into 94 high schools myself. But, so we hired 9 admissions reps. We're down 5,000 students. Now, everyone says, well, you know, you got to have a good football team to do anything. That is ridiculous. Okay, from 1986 to 1993, we had the worst football team in the history of the world. Okay? Remember, I inherited Stan, the Arab Parish, and we're going to throw the ball around. Yeah, we won 2 games under Big Stan. Our AD, Larry Travis, his favorite expression was, as I said. No, you haven't said anything. So, anyway, you know, I think we won 3 games. You got that? From 86 to 90. You know, our first good team was the Copper Bowl. What? 1993. Okay? So, you know, Pat and I, as soon as I hired him, let's say it was July 5th, we're going to do this. You know what? In 4 years, we're over 20,000. In 4 years, over 20,000. They said it couldn't be done. But that was easy. I mean, I knew how to do that with that in my hand. Okay? It was so easy. I sound like Donald Trump now. We're going to make America great. Okay, so the library. We had the worst library, I wouldn't say in the world. In the Big Eight, we're the only library not accredited by the American Library Association. We still aren't. Again, you'll vote tech for 75 years. But the first library, 27, then an addition in 54, another one in 69. And in all 3 cases, it was like this, half is good enough. So the architects recommended A, B, and C, and they cut it in half each time. And, you know, like in 1986, KU's got 3 million books, we got like 800,000. KU founded the American Research Library Association in 1932 with 31 other schools. We're still not a member of that today. So, but we got a new library. Bryce Holbrook, let's give him a big hand. We could not have done it without Bryce. Bryce and Kaufman. And you know who came to our aid? The students. The students passed a resolution for $5 million by like 98%. And then the foundation raised $5 million. And then, thank goodness, we had a governor that really liked us. Remember back in '92, every state got money back from the federal government because they had charged too much, like for Medicare. So Joan Finney got $80 million. That it's one-time money, but she could do with it what she pleased. Well, you remember at KU they had a fire. Where was it again? Coke Auditorium. Yeah, Coke Auditorium. And that you know, I don't want to say thank God, but they had to spend $30 million on that. KU gets what it wants. So Finney was so nice. She set aside $20 million for us. So for the first time, we've got $30 million. We didn't cut it in half, okay? So you've been to our library? I mean, it's a great library now. And so we're catching up, but you know, we put $8 million into high tech in 1996. So we had the dedication in 97. Now, the only school in the Big Eight that didn't have an art museum. And you know, Ruth Ann said, when she heard about the KU Art Museum with 30,000 pieces, she said, no, we got to do this. So she went over to the foundation, and the foundation said, you know, K-Staters aren't interested in an art museum. We're engineering and agriculture, and that's it. No, I mean, she was rebuffed, but she doesn't take no for an answer either. So, I mean, she and a number of others in the art department, they started going around the state. Our paintings were scattered into every building. We have a nice collection, but they were everywhere. A lot of them were spoiled. So they went around the state. She ran into Mariana Beach. Anyway, she was at a meeting in Hayes. So, it's a long story, it's in the book, but she talked Ross into it. Ross wanted to celebrate the 50th anniversary, and he gave us $1 million. I knew he'd give us more. I didn't argue about it. I think we got $12 million from Ross. But Ruth Ann and a number of other people. So we got an art museum dedicated in '96. We were not a research university in '86. Now, agriculture did a lot on wheat and sorghum and beef, but it was formula funds called earmarks. And, you know, it's still basic research now, so don't think that I understand it's basic research. But U.S. News and World Report doesn't count formula funding, you know, because it's from the federal government, state government. And so, but they were doing great research. But basically, the other land-grant colleges in America, all the ones that I've named, they're doing competitive research from like the 1920s on. And really the most powerful period is World War II. There was so much money. Pat Roberts told me one time, if you had been president here in the 70s, we'd have built everything over again. But, so in 1986, we had $18 million in competitive research grants. And let me tell you, you could list all kinds of things. There's just one criteria that gets you to wherever you want to go in terms of being a great research university. It's called competitive grants. In '86, we had 18 million. So the Arizona State Performance Rating Evaluation System, which is still in place today, they had us ranked 110th out of 200 public universities. Now, we put together Tim Donahue, Jim Kaufman, Paul Lowe, Jim Geikema, Ron Truitt. We put them together in 1990-91. And we really started rolling on competitive research. And we got engineering, agriculture, and vet medicine, which really were undergraduate schools, for the most part, 1900 to 1990. And we got everybody moving in the same direction. By the time I left, we were at 134 million. So we got it done, man, I'm telling you. Now, we actually moved ahead of KU. Yeah, they were in 2009 about 130, so we're 4 million more. So where did we go with the Arizona State Performance Evaluation ratings? We moved from 110th to 75th. That's 30 spots up, okay? Not bad. 75th. Okay, so let's see. Oh, at IT, we were at ground zero in 1986. We had administrative and academic computing. They fought like it was the North versus the South. But we hired Beth Unger in 1993. She was a magician. Oh, Beth Unger. When she left, we were second in the Princeton Review for wired universities. Now, you know, I haven't talked about football. You know, I can talk about it all day. Bill Snyder, look, he's just a dream in '86. I got Stan Parrish. Nobody's ever heard of Bill Snyder in 1986, or 87 or 88. Okay, so how intractable a problem was football? Okay, from 1935 to 1986, here's how intractable it was. 11 coaches, 9 athletic directors, and 4 presidents could not solve this little problem. And you know, I shouldn't say this. Look, if my team doesn't come here in '86, do you think Bill Snyder's there?
No, we don't have football.
There you go. We're the Missouri Valley today. Now, I shouldn't say that. Don't write that down. Okay, but I mean, our team, so anyway, 11 football coaches, 9 ADs, and 4 presidents. It's an intractable problem. So it took us 8 years. And you know, Bill Snyder was our 18th choice. No, I mean, he was our 18th. No, 17 head coaches, you know what they said? Forget it! No, I mean, I can give you the names. John Fox, who was with Denver. Oh, they thought we were crazy to even ask them. So thank God for Bill. You know, I love him. He's one of my best friends. You know, and I worked with him. I helped him recruit and all that kind of stuff. It's all in the book. But look, you know, in 1986, I gave a talk, and I'll close with this, at the Rotary Club in Kansas City. It's not as esteemed as this now, don't get me wrong. Okay, I talked about all these things. I said, hey, I think we can do these things. But then I just added, you know, football wasn't in my top 7. No, you know why? Because no one ever thought we could do it. Okay, so I just said, why can't we have a halfway competitive team? I didn't say a bowl team. Halfway competitive. I said, maybe we can win 3 or 4 games a year, and once in a while, 6 or 7. I didn't say we're going to go to 11 bowl games in a row. No, okay, so Rick Harmon, you remember him, All-American basketball player? He came up to me afterwards and he said, okay, he said, young man, I think you can do all that other stuff. But let me give you a word of advice. Do not, I repeat, do not ever mention football again. It can't be done. Okay, so I think you get the idea, right? Hey, it's 1 o'clock. I love the Rotary Club. I love Manhattan. I'll always love K-State, and I love you. Thank you.
In honor of Jon speaking today, we're going to donate this book to the Woodrow Wilson School. Prize-winning book, and he's already autographed it for us.
Don't
Thank
I
you,
get a
Jon.
pen then?
Some people have too many mugs and pens, I know that. Next week, we're going to hear from the Engineers Without Borders student group at K-State who are working on an aquaponics system for developing countries, and probably our Rotaract Club and this club will someday partner with them on installing that in some of the developing countries, so you'll want to hear that. Is there a holiday in appreciation?
There is. Congratulations goes to Curtis Hayden.
Curtis Hayden. See, it pays to come, Curtis. Now, I know John knows the answer to this historical question, so he can't answer.
Okay.
But when Jefferson Davis graduated from West Point in 1828, do you remember what his classmates said about him? They voted him the most likely to secede. We're adjourned.